Tower Tonight, episode 81.
Changes.
Welcome to Dice Tower Tonight, a video cast about board games and card games, and especially the people who play them. On tonight's show, change is in the air, so we're talking about games that may have you changing your role, whether it's your choice or not. Also, Crystal has a game for me in the chat to play. We run through some titles we've played lately, and we answer questions from the audience live. I'm Eric Summerer, and joining me now, the Mystique to my Odo, it's Crystal Dax.
Hello, Eric.
Hello, Crystal, or Ms. Dax, I should say.
It's my first time that we've used my last name on this show.
Indeed, congratulations. The paperwork finally went through. I think it went through like the day after we last spoke.
It did, yeah. I got the notification that the judge had made the decision on the case the day after our last episode.
I am so happy that part of your life is moving forward. I am delighted to see how happy you are with your new name, and I love it. I think it embraces your personality. It embraces a spirit of change, as it is, relating to the character from Star Trek and the whole Trill race and just rebirth. It's so cool. I'm excited for you, and I'm delighted to introduce you for the first time here on the show.
I am delighted as well, and yeah, it took me a while to settle on the name, but once I chose it could have never been anything else, basically.
Excellent. So other than that, how have you been?
Honestly, I've been really good. Like, 2020 has been a hot mess for everyone for a variety of reasons, and the pandemic is obviously still ongoing, but like from a personal point of view, the past like 2 or 3 weeks have been pretty awesome for me. I'm just settling into my new life and learning to enjoy the new parts of it, and also realizing that, man, it sucks to have to like take the trash out every week and do all the other things around the house, but like when you split that stuff up, it's not as much, and when you gotta do all of it, it's kind of annoying. And I don't even have kids. For people who have kids, no idea how they do this, but I'm taking care of the 3 doggos all by myself, and we're doing great.
That seems close to kids. I'm hoping that I am as excited and settled as you are in a month's time or so, because my move is coming up near the end of November. November 20th is when we're closing on our new house, and so I'm looking forward to being where you are now in sort of settling into a new space. Right now we're both in sort of a waiting game, holding pattern, and the panic of all this stuff has to go in a box, and realizing there's only like 3 weekends left before that happens, and yeah, a little bit of panic.
Well, Eric, I would love to hear about what you've actually been playing lately.
Absolutely. So the kids got to choose the game that I'm going to talk about. They had their pick for family game night, and they pulled out one that was going to get packed away soon, and that my eldest wanted to bring to the table before that happened. That is Catan Junior. Have you played the junior version of Catan, Crystal?
I haven't, and I actually haven't even played regular Catan in a very, very long time.
It is, for lack of a better term, a simplified version of grown-up Catan. There was a kids version called The Kids of Catan that was a very different game, very simple, not anything I would recommend, really. It was almost too simple. But this is an intro game to the world of Catan. You've got a much more simplified board, if you're familiar with the Settlers of Catan, or grown-up Catan. This looks very similar. You've got dots, and you've got paths between those dots, and hexagonal pieces, or board spaces that represent different resources. And you're going to place I pulled out a couple of examples. You've got these pirate hideouts, these nice sculpted plastic hideouts.
Ooh, those are nice.
And then you've got pirate ships that sail between them. And you will be building those. You also have that spooky island. There was one island that was different from the rest of those. That's where the robber sits, except this time it's a pirate. It's like a Blackbeard the pirate or something. And he sits there. And there's only 1 die instead of the 2 dice in this version of the game. So every turn you're going to roll a die, and then everyone who has a presence on those hexes is going to get resources. There's 5 resources in the game, and they're represented by these nice tokens. So you've got molasses rather than cards. You've got cutlasses, which I can't get out for some reason. A nice little sword token. I'm unscrewing them from my organizers here. You've got gold in them dour
Gold.
hills. And you've got, because it's Catan, wood, which makes sense. And goats, not sheep, but goats.
Ah.
Right there. So you got these nice chunky tokens. And you will roll the die. You're going to take income. And you're supposed to, if it's your turn, you're supposed to give the income to the other players. So that, oh, you get 2 wood. So here's your 2 wood. It's sort of, each person has a roll. And then you will buy stuff. There's only 3 things you can buy in this game. You can buy more pirate hideouts, which need 4 of the resources. You can buy more ships, which are like the roads, that are only 2 of the resources. And for 3 resources, you can buy these parrot tiles. That's Coco the parrot right there. And I had him upside down. You buy one of those, it's from a face-down pile, and it's going to give you stuff like, you get to move the pirate for free. Or you get to build a ship or a hideout for free. Or you get a bunch of resources for free. Plus, there's a kind of a longest road concept, so whoever has purchased the most Coco tiles gets to put one of their hideouts on the Spooky Island, on Skull Island, and that counts as one of their 7 hideouts. That's the end game. Whoever builds 7 hideouts wins the game. The last thing that makes this simple is over here on the edge of the board, you've got these 5 carts. And at the beginning of the game, you put 1 of each resource on these carts. And once per turn, you can trade one of the resources you have with one of the things that's on the cart. You simply swap them out. You can also trade 2 for 1 with the supply. 2 identical resources for whatever you want. But the cheap ones are here on the marketplace. If this ever fills up completely as 5 of the same resource, you wipe it. But there's no, at least in the basic version of the game, there's no trading between players. It's all with the marketplace or with the supply. So that keeps some of the animosity out of it. If somebody is taking a lead in regular Catan, you're going to stop trading with them. You can't do that here. You can't necessarily prevent someone from making a run for it. If they have a particularly good string of luck and are getting a lot of resources, you can't really stop them from pulling ahead. Which is why, ultimately, while the kids had no trouble with this, I think this is almost too simple for us now. I think they both moved beyond the level that this game is at. And so it's one that, while it was fun to bring out again, and there are advanced rules that do make it more like regular Catan, where you can trade with the other players. You just take the marketplace out, and you must trade with each other. You could play that way, but if you're going to do that, I might as well just pull out full-fledged Catan. Because they would have no trouble with it at all. I think, while I don't think they're willing to get rid of it yet, this might be on the trade pile soon. We're starting to get to the point where a lot of the little kids games are becoming too far below their level, or a little too childish for them. Also, this box, this is what happens to cardboard when you put it next to a humidifier. I'm not sure if you can see that.
Oh, yeah.
It's sort of warped and all sorts of wonky. This is just like sitting there. And one day I picked up the box and went, what happened? Fortunately, the components are fine, but the box is it looks like it's going through a time warp. Anyway, that's Catan Jr., a great game, a wonderful introduction to the game of Catan. But for us, I think we've moved past it. It's time to break out the big brother.
Okay. Well, what's funny, Eric, I forgot to grab the game box for my game because I've been playing it online. I've been playing it on Board Game Arena. But I do own the game, so I'm going to go run and grab it, which will take me like 30 seconds. So I'm going to let you talk to the chat for 30 seconds while I grab it.
Sure. I mean, I guess I could mention it. In chat, it's come up already, but my top 100 premiered this week. In fact, today, I think at like 3 o'clock this afternoon, my first episode of the Top 100 went online. So you can check it out. Not right now because you're watching us, but the Top 100 is live. There should be another 2 episodes this week. And for the next month or so, more episodes of that. I have completed filming. I've edited it all. It is all to Dice Tower HQ, and they're going to be doling it out periodically over the next several weeks. So I'm excited to have that complete and for people to see it. And already folks are excited to see it.
Roy, I miss seeing you at cons
I
too.
miss cons.
I miss all of, like, and honestly, online has been a good replacement for playing games, for hanging out with friends via video chat. Like, those things aren't bad, but just traveling and eating out at restaurants and like all of the other little things that all combine at a con. Karaoke night, like that stuff.
I miss karaoke night.
Me
I
too.
really well. So since I got to do my plug, Crystal, we should talk about your plug as well. That you appeared in another podcast universe the last few days, like just this week, right at the beginning of the
Yeah,
week.
Monday, I believe, was when. Emma, who I'm not going to try and pronounce her last name because I will butcher it.
Janssen, isn't it? It's Janssen.
Janssen, yes.
Janssen.
I'm bad with Dutch names, even if it is a common Dutch name. Emma interviewed me on the Pointless Parrot podcast, and honestly, I'm really, really proud of how the episode turned out and the conversation that we had. If you've ever really wanted to hear me talk about not board games, this is a great opportunity because we really barely touched on anything board game related at all. It was kind of more about my personal life and a lot of other things that are tangential to board games. And I feel like it was a really good conversation and we talked about some really important topics. So if you all have not heard of Emma's podcast, it's pretty awesome. She's interviewed a lot of other really awesome people. I believe my episode is episode 21. So it's still fairly new, but honestly, Emma's great. And so if y'all haven't checked it out, even not just my episode, but any of the episodes, I would highly recommend it.
It was a lot of fun. I enjoyed listening to it. So,
And yeah,
what have you been playing, Crystal?
so I had to go grab one of the largest boxes on my shelf
Wow.
because I've been playing Kingdom Builder, which admittedly, like I said, I've been playing it on Board Game Arena, but I own the big box. This is Kingdom Builder base game four of its expansions, all in one giganto box.
That's
very
gigantic.
large. So
Yes.
rather than trying to open it up, I will kind of use the pictures on the back.
Yes.
I figured if I could get a visual aid, I should. So Kingdom Builder is a reasonably simple game. It came out in 2011, and it was designed by Donald X. Vaccarino, who most people know from Dominion.
Yep.
He has also designed other games as well. But I think when this one came out in 2011, people were like, oh, that's the guy who designed Dominion. We got to check out this new game. And a lot of people are surprised that I like it because it's a reasonably simple game at its core. You have a board that is made up of tiles that show different land types. And those tiles can be oriented in any configuration, so the board is always different every time you play. And in the big box, there are tons of tiles to choose from. So there's different land types. You draw a single card into your hand that shows a single land type, and on your turn, you play 3 settlements, which are just little wooden houses, onto the land type that's on the card in your hand. The only rule regarding placement is if you can play adjacent to existing settlements on the board of yours, you must.
Yep.
So this actually recently showed up in the list that Tom and the gang did, where they were talking about top 10 games where you can screw it up on the first turn. Because the way you place those settlements on the first turn can kind of pigeonhole you into not having a lot of options. And some people do not like the game for that reason, because if you play those first few settlements poorly, then you kind of get stuck when you draw future cards. Some people mitigate that by drawing more than one card into their hands. They have options. I've never played with that house rule. I just kind of always warn people in advance that you want to place your settlements in ways that will give you options. So then as you're playing settlements, you are looking for specific placement patterns based on the scoring cards that were drawn at the beginning of the game. Those are also variable, like the setup of the tiles. So you will have 4 scoring cards that get selected at the beginning of the game out of, I'm not sure how many are just in the base game, but it's, again, different every time. So the setup is always variable. Everything is always a little bit different. So you may be looking to put settlements near water or around a mountain or on a horizontal line across the board or just in one region of the board. And you'll get points at the end of the game based on the number of settlements that meet the criteria on the 4 scoring cards. That's kind of it. There are buildings on the tiles where you can collect little building tiles that will allow you to place extra settlements or sometimes move settlements. They give you kind of little special abilities that you can do in addition to your normal 3 settlement placement. But yeah, it's a reasonably simple game. And again, people are surprised that I like this one because it's very themeless, truly. I don't know why I like this one so much, but I've been playing it for a long time, and it's just as good today as it was the first time I played it. I really enjoy this one. The reason I bought it originally, oh man, what year would that have been? Years and years and years ago, Will Wheaton actually tweeted about this game. Like it was when I was in that early phase of kind of building my collection. You know, like I was finally like really acquiring games, and I think Will Wheaton just tweeted about it and said it was awesome, and I clicked buy on Amazon or wherever and just bought it.
Yeah.
And it ended up being a good decision for me. Kingdom Builder is a lot of fun, and it's easy to teach. So this is one that I recommend if you haven't checked this out, especially because it is on Board Game Arena, and the implementation on Board Game Arena is solid. I would highly recommend checking this one out, regardless of whether you like theme in games or not, because I love theme. This is themeless. I still love it.
I do really like Kingdom Builder. I let my own copy go just because, it wasn't hitting the table as often, but it went to one of my friends in my board game group, so that was good. But I liked... you mentioned the different scoring cards that show up every round. That's the part that seemed the most like Dominion to me, because you see what those scoring cards are, and much like the 10 Kingdom cards in Dominion, you can then build your strategy around that. How am I going to make these cards work for me? And that felt like the connection for a Vaccarino game.
Yeah, absolutely.
I really liked it, though. I'm glad
it's funny because I don't like Dominion, but that has more to do with I'm not super keen on deck building some of the time, and since Dominion is pure deck building with not a whole lot else, I think that's why that one doesn't appeal to me. But yeah, the variable setup is great in this and a lot of other games.
Yep. Very cool.
Awesome.
So for our game today, Crystal has promised to terrify me because we're so close to Halloween. She said, I've got something really scary for you.
I mean, yeah, kind of. That's accurate. It's just, so, I don't know if anyone in the chat is familiar with the thing that I'm about to show on camera. If they are, they will either roll their eyes really hard or probably get very excited, and that would be this. Eric, do you know what this is?
I do, and I'm so afraid. This is one of those mouth spreader things that you use in a bunch of party games. There are like 5 of them.
And what's funny is I own none of those games. I bought like a 20 pack or something of these years ago. No, because that's not the way they don't sell them individually, Eric. It's not like I needed that many of them.
I gotta buy in bulk. Think of the savings.
That was my only option, and they were cheap. But no, Andy and I did a live stream on the Board Game Blitz YouTube channel like years ago where we played a game using these. And we're going to play a game using this tonight, Eric. Come on, you did the thing recently where you did all the funny voices and whatever else. And so I figured, if you can embarrass yourself a little bit on the show, I can do the same. I do recognize that some people are not keen on these.
I'm watching the chat right now. Ah!
Maybe they can just put a sticky note over my face if they really don't want to watch what's about to happen. But what is about to happen, Eric, is I have created a game where I've combined the names of board games with popular types of candy, because it is Halloween week. And so I'm going to put this in my mouth and read the name of a board game combined with a type of candy, and you just have to figure out what I'm saying. That's really all it is. And then obviously what the board game is and what the candy is, which will be mostly obvious, I hope. This could be incredibly easy or incredibly difficult. I have no idea.
Okay.
Honestly.
Yep.
Because I wrote all of these without realizing what they would sound like with this. Okay, yeah, I am now looking at the chat. Wow. Okay, so... yeah.
Now the question is, should I make you full screen for this, or should we...
No, because I think your reactions are important, and I also don't want my mouth to be that large. So we'll see how this goes. I do also have paper towels nearby because I know that it can get gross. So chat, apologies in advance. Here we go.
Okay. Oh golly.
All right. Are you ready?
No.
All right.
Okay.
Number one. Hey, that's not Swedish fish.
What?
Hey, that's
Oh.
I Swedish fish.
Hey, that's my Swedish fish.
Okay. So that now that we have an idea of how that's going to go, chat. What I'm going to say is, if you guess it before Eric, give yourself a point. You don't have to guess it in the chat. I'm not going to be looking. You're going to time yourself individually. But if you can guess it before Eric, you get a point. How about that? And I'm not going to keep putting this in and taking it out, but I forgot to tell the chat that they're playing too.
Yep.
Here we go.
You're keeping your own score. Bonzoso says, let's see how this looks on the new 77-inch.
Oh, no! Don't do it. Don't do that.
Okay, number 2.
Okay. Hit, hot, lady. Okay, hold on. Hit, cat,
Yeah.
lady.
Kit Kat lady. At first, I thought you said hit that lady, and that is not.
No. Yeah,
Kit
you
Kat
got
lady.
it. Kit Kat lady. Okay. All right.
Number 3.
Okay. Why as a panda? Okay, hold on. I'll do it again. Loki, why as a panda? Milky,
Milky
way
Way
as
of the
a
panda.
panda.
Milky Way of the panda. Oh, golly. Okay.
All right. Hold on. Gonna keep my full nice and clean. Here we go. All right. Terraforming Mars.
Terraforming Mars bar.
That was an easy one. Too easy. All right. All right. We're good.
We're good. Everything's fine. This is great.
Best game ever. We're definitely doing this every week going forward. I'm sure the chat will love it.
They're playing this back in slow motion, is what they're doing.
Oh, no. Okay.
Tootsie Roll for the galaxy.
Yes, you asking me too. You're great at that.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right. Another something. I don't know what another one. Heroes of Land, Airheads, and Sea.
Heroes of Lair. No, wait. Heroes of Air. Airheads, Land and Sea.
You did a,
Heroes of Airheads, Land and Sea.
No. Heroes of
Land, Airheads, and Sea.
And sea.
Yes. How can I go back to 144p? Can I go back to SD, please?
Oh, no. I'm so sorry. I rushed my teeth for you. All right. 100 yen off the hotel. Oh.
I'm sorry.
See, I knew your reaction would be good. 100 grand Austria Hotel.
Okay, 100 Grand Austria Hotel.
Yay! Okay. King of New York, Crocodile Harry.
Wait, okay. Okay, wait, no, I think I got it. Okay, King of New York Peppermint Patty.
That is accurate. That one is hard. That was really hard. Okay. I'm gonna keep going. It's good. Everything's good. Oh God, this is great. Hold on. Dear God. I had to take it out for a minute. Everything's fine. It's fine. I'm trying not to be disgusting, I swear. Okay.
Uh,
Cider. Okay, that didn't sound like anything.
Harada sidebar.
Har. I can't use that. That letter doesn't come out. Why can't I make that letter? Har.
Forbidden Sylar.
No, Hidden Sky Bar.
Forbidden Sky Bar.
Yeah.
I've never heard of a
Skylar.
sky bar. What's a sky
Okay, it's not.
bar?
Yeah, it's a thing.
Okay, that's a thing.
All right.
Lady Rookish.
Lady Ruthless.
Lazy Rookless.
Lady. Lady. I can't say that word. Lady Ruthless.
Baby Ruthless.
Yeah! You got it. Okay. I got two more. You can do more than that if you want. I got two more.
I think 2 should be plenty.
Okay. Andy's Mint Works.
Andy's Mint Works. That one's
Oh
easy.
yeah, I could actually kind of say that
Yeah.
one. Okay. Three Musketeer. Oh, that's easy too.
Tier 3 Musketeers?
Team
Team 3 Musketeers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, one more
Okay,
on this
fine.
one.
Sure. Yes.
We're gonna cheat a little because it's not a board game. It's fine. Sour Patch Kids on Dykes.
Sour. Sour Patch Kids on Bikes.
Yay! It's an RPG, not a board game, but
Yes,
that
it
one
is.
was fun.
I once roomed with one of the designers of Kids on Bikes at a convention.
That's awesome.
Yeah, Doug Lewandowski.
I am afraid to go look at the chat that happened during that part of the game. But chat, let me know how many points you got. How many times you guessed it before, Eric. I do realize that Eric also tried to give you all a little bit of time sometimes, which was nice of him to do. So yeah, let me know how many points you got.
Our friends outside the U.S. are more confused about some of the candy names.
Oh yeah, I just found out recently that a Three Musketeer here is a Milky Way in other parts of the world.
Really?
Like, yeah. What we think of as a Three Musketeer, other people call a Milky Way. And what we think of as a Milky Way, they call a Mars bar.
Then what's a Mars bar?
I don't know.
Does it make a circle? That I'd love to know.
I mean, who knows? But yeah, why it seems silly that like the same candy names would be used for different candy bars in different parts of the world. I don't quite understand that. Everybody's like 0.
I got 0.
Well, that just means you're really good at deciphering my gibberish, Eric.
I got most of them eventually.
Yeah, well, you got all of them eventually. It just took a little time in a couple of instances.
My mouth hurts. Your mouth has to hurt.
We could have just played just one, Eric, but it's Halloween week. I had to do something silly.
Indeed. Oh, yes. Americans call Smarties rockets and don't have Smarties.
Well,
no, it's the other way around.
We have Smarties, but they're gross compared to Smarties in other parts of the world. Because, like, in Canada, Smarties are more like M&Ms.
Right. And here, Smarties are chalky.
Chalk.
Yeah,
gross.
Chalk.
When I was in 8th grade, my math teacher, before every single test, would come around with a basket of candy and offer every kid in the class their choice of either Smarties or a Dum Dum, depending on how they were feeling about that day's test. And I thought that was very funny. And even though I was a straight A student, I always took a Dum Dum because Smarties are gross.
I like Smarties, but I would eat them in a stack. So I would unwrap them and get them like this and just go, oh.
No, but then if you're gonna eat Smarties, you gotta separate them by color.
No,
Yeah.
maximum sugar infusion.
I mean, at that point, just open a pixie stick then.
That's fine. It's the same material. It's
Yeah,
just
yeah,
in
yeah.
solid versus powder form.
Right, right. Well, everybody in the chat, drop your favorite Halloween candy in the chat, and maybe we'll come back to that later. But for now, let's talk about change, Eric. We talked about my new last name earlier. And so we wanted to talk about board games in which something for you changes mid-game, whether that is by choice or whether you are forced to because of what happens within the game. This is a subject that I don't think it gets touched on too often. And I think it's really interesting because my opinions on games where change happens can vary pretty wildly.
Yeah, I think there a lot of games these days have some sort of player power or a role that you assume at the beginning of the game that stays pretty static. But each time you play, you get a new role and a new ability, and that's part of the fun of repeat plays. But there are some games that have a mechanism that allow you to take on a different role in the middle, whether that's by decision or not. And I sort of broke things up into categories. There are some games where you adopt a role every turn. So, like at the beginning of a round, everybody drafts roles. There's a game called Canal Mania where everybody takes a particular, it's a personality that you take that gives you a special power for the round. Age of Steam has you doing that, where you take an ability for the round that's not necessarily going to be one that you have in future rounds, but it's a special power that hopefully fits your strategy at the time. But the one that you brought up when we were discussing this is when it's a surprise. When you don't know that you're about to change characters, like your character dies and you have to make a new one mid-game. Or Battlestar Galactica, you start out the game as a human, and then that halfway point happens and they reveal new Cylon cards, and suddenly you find out you're a Cylon. And while you're still the same personality, you are a very different character now with different goals.
And even further, in BSG, if your character dies, whether you are human or Cylon, you get a new character at that point as well. So there's the possibility of changing allegiance, so to speak, and character within that game. And some of those moments are really, really fun. And I think for me in BSG, because you're not using your player's specific abilities usually that often, it's not like something you're doing constantly. I like changing characters mid-game because then you have new stuff that you can do, even if the reason that happens is your character got thrown out of the airlock.
Yes. Sometimes you actually get to make that decision as well. Pandemic has a famous card in one of the expansions that's an action card that allows you to change your role. One of the players can turn in one role and bring out another, and depending on how you do that, it can be very, very useful. How many times have you played Pandemic and suddenly you're like, oh man, I really wish we had brought out the medic this time, or I really wish we had the dispatcher this time, because this particular situation really needs that player. And to be able to have that card and go, well, we can make you the dispatcher now. You're then stuck with it for the rest of the game, but it's kind of a cool extra decision to say, all right, I'm going to jettison this character that may not be useful anymore and become a new personality. Of course, in Pandemic Legacy, your character can die.
And then you become a generic, kind of a nobody for the rest of that game. And then in future games, you would choose a new character.
Yes, indeed.
Similarly, in another cooperative game, which I had forgotten about this one, somebody else mentioned it to me today. Ambi actually reminded me about it. In Flashpoint Fire Rescue, apparently, I'd forgotten this. If you go to the fire truck, you can actually change roles, which I'd completely forgotten that was possible. So it's kind of similar.
Huh.
I don't know if it's one of the expansions or the base game for that one, but
I did
something
not
about
remember
changing
that
roles. If
rule.
you, I know I didn't either, but Ambi said that you can do that in Flashpoint, and that does make sense because in theory you'd be giving up something on your turn to go to the fire truck, so you're potentially not managing the fire, but hopefully to the benefit later of being able to do something different.
Right. And thematically, you ran to the truck and somebody else came back. You know,
Yeah,
that does make sense. That
it does.
it's a thematic. I always just want to run to the fire truck and drive the fire truck. You know,
Right.
drive it around and squirt the gun because that's the coolest role in that game when you are firing the gun. That's always
I
cool.
haven't played Flashpoint in a long time, and I really like. I used to enjoy that game a lot, and it's not that anything happened. I just stopped playing it.
Yeah, I
I should.
think they haven't really. I mean, there haven't been expansions for it in a while. They came out with a ton, and I
Well, they
think.
just like a year or two ago. I want to say there was a Kickstarter for like it with everything.
Oh,
I want to say I considered backing it, but it was kind of expensive because there were a lot of expansions. This could have been longer than a couple of years ago now at this point. Time is blurry. But I do remember that happening and me considering it, but then me thinking, I already own the base game and I don't play it that often. And typically for me, with games such as Kingdom Builder, I end up with analysis paralysis about playing the game because I have too much content in the box.
huh,
So I have found for me personally, even for games that I really enjoy, that I sometimes play them less when I buy more expansions, which
interesting.
doesn't like it wouldn't have thought I wouldn't have thought that would happen, but I've found that to be true, at least for me. I don't know if anybody else experiences that.
Yeah, I understand what you mean. If when you have so much content, it sort of makes it adds that extra hurdle of you can't just say let's play this game. It's then well let's play this game, but how? You know, do we want to
Right.
play with this map? Do we want to play with these extra characters? Do we want to play with this extra set of mechanisms? Do we want to play in the lab? Do we, all that? It's not as simple a choice to pull out a game. You have to go through the extra layer.
Yep.
Chat has mentioned a few games when we talked about the adopt a new role every round. There's some drafting games that will allow you to do that. There's one game where you get a hand of cards and they have a particular role and you take one, and there's one role that can assassinate another role. So after you've all finished drafting, you can choose to knock out and cause that player to lose their turn that round, and it may happen more often than other times to one particular player. And there's, maybe that's not a great thing. Um, anyway, that's one way that you could play a game like that.
Um, one that I wrote down that I think is really neat in as far as roles are concerned is coup, because you have to choose a role every round, but you don't necessarily have to choose one of the roles that is on the cards in front of you. They are face down, they are secret, and you can claim any role theoretically, and then it is up to the other players to determine whether they think you're lying or not. And so you do the role of the character you have named. Everybody always names the Duke at
Yeah.
first, but always wanting those extra coins early on. And if you don't have a Duke under your thing, it's hard to call somebody out on lying in that game. But I like that game because you're not just beholden to the roles that have been given to you. You have the flexibility to theoretically choose anything you want if you're willing to lie.
Oh, the game I was talking about, I actually didn't actually mention the title of the game I was talking about. It's a game called Citadels!
I was going to let it just blow past, and your face.
So another game that's similar to the one where you it's a surprise when you have suddenly changed roles is Good Cop, Bad Cop.
Yeah.
It's the social deduction game where you're given three identity cards in front of you, and whichever, so you can either be a good cop or a crooked cop. I forget exactly what they call it, but you're looking at the cards, and whatever you have the majority of, that's what you are. But some of the mechanisms have you revealing or swapping cards with other players. So suddenly you may find out that you are no longer a crooked cop. You are now on the loyal side, and you have to change your alliances and your strategy, and suddenly play for the other side. And that is your mechanism for winning or losing the game. It's based on what you are at the end of the game, which is kind of a tricky twist to that one.
For sure. Um, Earlier we were talking about turning allegiances from good to bad, and that happens in Betrayal at House on the Hill. In just about every scenario that in that game, one or more of the players go from the good guy's side to the bad guy's side
Yep.
mid-game when the haunt begins. And sometimes you get new abilities, sometimes you start controlling monsters or other characters in addition to your own human character. And that's really interesting and has made for a lot of really neat game moments for me over the years. Betrayal was one of my first hobby board games that I ever played when I got into the hobby back in 2007. And while there are scenarios that are horribly broken, and I have complained about that game a lot over the years, I still love it.
For theme, it certainly works, but I understand what you're saying.
Yeah.
One other suggestion in the category of possible changing of roles, another social deduction game is One Night Ultimate Werewolf. There are certain roles that will swap other roles. And again, it's that changing alliance thing. You may start the game thinking you're a werewolf player or on the werewolf team, and then somebody switches something over in the night phase, and you don't necessarily know that you're no longer fighting for the werewolf team, which is kind of crazy.
There are definitely, I think, quite a few social deduction games where switching of roles factors in. There's a game called Growl, where if you get too many bite cards, you turn into a werewolf, and that can happen mid-game. So similarly to some of the others.
Yeah.
Growl is fun, mostly because of what happens at the very end of the game. You want the humans to outnumber the werewolves, I believe, at the end. And at the very end of the game, the way in which you find out who is a human and who is a werewolf is once the game has ended, the werewolves all howl. And so you're waiting, and then a certain number of people start howling, and it's silly, of course. It's the kind of thing that Tom would be like, I'm never doing that, probably.
Yeah.
But like, it's honestly, it causes some neat little like tension-filled moments where you're waiting for people to see if they start howling or not.
That does sound fun.
Yeah.
That is my whole list. I think we went through my categories of games. I like these because they offer a neat twist. It really is a twist in the course of the game that can really change your strategy, change your outlook, change how the other players react to you in interesting ways. I'm trying to think if there were any others that went by in the chat.
There were probably at least a few. I would say this is neat because I tend to not enjoy games where everything is entirely predictable, mostly because then I'm relying only on my own strategy and that alone, and that's not always great for me. And while I love dice rolling to put some randomness into a game, I also appreciate other ways that a game can get shaken up. And I think by these changing roles, that's a neat way to throw a little bit of a wrench into people's plans. I like not being able to predict everything that's going to happen in a game. So this kind of stuff appeals to me for that reason.
Hawkskull mentions one that I had forgotten about. Ankh-Morpork or Nanti Narking have a card that allows you to change your role, but your role in the game is also your victory condition. So you have some roles that are very much like straight area control, but there are others that have you having the most money or having a particular section of the board that's yours, or very specific, specialized victory conditions that you have to watch out for, knowing what they are. If you see somebody building toward one of those, you might want to fight that. But there's a card that lets you swap, which then may have you working for something totally different, which is kind of cool. So if you're totally blocked in your main victory condition, you can bail and hope that you get something that may be more achievable.
That's interesting.
I'm not seeing. There's a lot of great ideas that have come by. Spirit Island has drastic change as a built-in mechanism. Major power cards. I have not yet played Spirit Island. That's one that I think I would enjoy.
Me too. I honestly think I'll love it, and I've still never played it. I know it's on Steam now, I want to say. I don't have a lot of board games on Steam, but that one I might, just because I don't think this pandemic is going to be over anytime soon, I might actually get a digital version of that one to finally get it played.
Time Stories has
Oh
with
yeah.
possibly changing characters. Same thing. If your character dies, you're a vessel in that game, a time traveler that's inhabited someone from that time zone. And if they get knocked out, you have to reset and come
I
back
don't
as somebody else.
No, I don't think you actually come back as somebody else. If I remember correctly, in it when you get knocked out, your token gets moved down the time track, but the same character automatically comes back after that amount of time. But then between rounds, like once the time is run out, when you
That's
do a new
right.
run, you can actually choose to use a different vessel at that point, I
That's right.
think.
I think you're right.
Um,
It's been a
but
while
that's
since I've played
neat.
that one.
No, yeah. And so for those of us that have played it to its conclusion, we ain't going back. But no, honestly, I know that you've talked about this on the podcast fairly recently, that you didn't finish it out and kind of don't want to because you don't want to have the experience like that Tom and I have, where it
Yes.
soured the whole
I
thing.
don't want to go down that road. I
Yeah.
think I'm trying to. I think Estrella Drive was the last one that I
Okay.
purchased, and I think I'm gonna stop there.
Yeah, that's not a bad idea, honestly. I can very much appreciate and still love the experiences I had early on with time stories, but I don't set up an overarching story and then flub the landing so horribly. Ugh, so
Coraloo
disappointing.
mentions Small World, which actually that makes sense. That one of the major mechanisms of Small World, or Vinci, which was the game it's based on, is that you change civilizations. You have this sort of rise and fall. You build up your forces and get some board position, and then you decline that civ and pick a new one, and enter the board again. And the real key is if you can get the two to coexist so that you are scoring both of them simultaneously, and somehow getting those to survive, but you're no longer controlling the old one. But what you choose as a new civilization is important. When that particular assortment of roles comes along, you grab the ones that are really going to work for you, or pay extra to get a better setup. That's a cool system.
Nick, no, I have not watched Lost or Heroes. Uh, technically, I watched most of the first season of Lost here a few years ago. Heroes was on when I was in college, and everybody was obsessed with it, but I was double majoring in 3.5 years, so I didn't have a lot of time for television when I was in college.
Mark, notorious troublemaker Mark, jumps onto the chat to say, changing victory conditions? Suddenly I'm compelled to say flux. Not quite changing roles, but yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
definitely. Well, if anybody else has any games with role changing in the middle that they want to throw into the chat, please do. Otherwise, we have about 10 minutes left. So, Eric and I would be happy to answer any questions that you all have. And actually, Eric, you told me before the show that you wanted to go back to a question that you and I were asked in a recent episode.
That is true. I don't remember who asked it in the chat a couple weeks ago, but the question was, what is your favorite Weird Al song that is not a parody? And I think at the time we both went, "Oh, that's too difficult. It's like picking a favorite child." I picked a favorite child, is what I'm saying. I came across this one uh, over the past week or so. I was watching some videos with my son, and this came up in the feed and I said, "Oh yeah, that's the one." This song, I love it because it is so complex. It starts and just goes at full speed through a winding, twisty, turny adventure until the very end, and that is Virus Alert.
Oh, that one is good.
Virus Alert is musically complex. It has a lot of crazy backgrounds, and then lyrically, it's about an increasingly more outlandish alert that you'd get as an email saying, watch out for this latest virus, and here's what you need to do to protect yourself from it. And there was a time that we were getting tons of emails like this. This was actually a thing that if you had any sort of email account, you get, alert, this new virus doing this thing, watch out for this, don't open this attachment, don't do this. And this, it's so intricate in how zany it gets and just gets more and more wacky, and the list of things you must do to rid yourself of this virus, it's like an evil curse that must be driven out of your computer. But the song is just so well done, and that is my favorite non-parody Weird Al song.
That's a really good choice, honestly.
And now you said you also had one ready to go,
I mean,
if I recall correctly.
So I'm torn, and I know we already said that last time. The two that I already mentioned that I adore Albuquerque, just because it is epic and 9 minutes long and just so good. But like, if we take out the length and the intricacy of the story, I would have to probably either go to Bob, which is a style parody of Bob Dylan that is done entirely in palindromes. Yep. And not just palindrome words, but palindrome phrases. For those who aren't aware, a palindrome is something that is the same forwards and backwards. And they are long phrases that are palindromes. And all of the lyrics in the song are in they're phrases of palindromes. And it's just like he's parodying a style in palindromes. And that's just a lot of cool stuff to make that happen. And then the other one that I would mention would actually be Pancreas.
Yeah, another very intricate, I think the same album as Virus Alert.
I believe so. And honestly, that album has
some of the best pastiches and originals in his entire discography.
Yeah, no, really, really good stuff. But yeah, Pancreas is surprisingly complex in its subject matter, but really fun. Yeah. And you wouldn't necessarily think that a song about the pancreas would be so fun, but if anybody's going to do it, it's going to be Weird Al. So.
Yep. One question that flew by in the chat, Crystal, is a Star Trek question.
Okay.
Can you rank the Star Trek first officers or right-hand persons?
Oh, gosh. I mean, no is the answer to that question.
So, I mean, we'd be talking Spock.
We're talking
Riker. Kira. Chakotay?
Yeah, Chakotay. And then for Discovery, it would be Michael.
It would be Michael.
Technically.
Yeah.
Enterprise, I'm not as familiar with. I've still only watched like most of the first season of Enterprise, so I don't remember who the first officer is.
Is it Jolene Blalock's character? Was she second officer?
I don't know.
I don't remember. I am also blanking on Enterprise.
Okay, gut reactions. Kira, Michael, Riker. I'm missing
You're
Chakotay
missing
and
Spock.
Oh, Spock. Spock, Chakotay.
Okay.
That's the gut reaction, and I could move it all around, but that's just what I'm going to say for the ones that I know.
Okay.
And it pained me to do so. I love Kira, though. Kira is so good.
Kira is really good.
And it's hard to put anybody above Michael, because Michael is amazing. Honestly, Michael will probably surpass Kira as Discovery continues. But Kira is just so, like, as far as female characters in Star Trek go, Trek is doing a much better job with the female characters now than they were back in the day. But Kira was incredibly strong and powerful and sure of herself in a way that many female characters prior to that time had not been. So,
T'Pol is the name of the character.
Oh, yeah, no. I mean, again, I haven't seen a lot of Enterprise anyway. She's fine. She'd be further down on the list, probably.
Yeah. Nothing surpasses Ensign Tilly. Sure.
I mean, obviously, but we're not. Tilly's not a first officer. So
Yes.
no, oh, I love Tilly so much.
I've been watching the first season of Discovery that's been airing on network television, and came across the third episode because the first two are sort of the lead up until,
Yeah.
Discovery, the starship, doesn't come into play until episode 3. and
Hmm.
and so I got to the first episode on Discovery where you first meet Tilly, and she was so much more awkward in that first introduction than she
Very.
is now in current episodes. And part of that is growth of the character, and I'm sure just becoming more familiar with the character, and having more interesting stories for her. But it was such a different introduction when we first met her, and how at first it was like, oh wow, that's very awkward, and it went from awkward to totally endearing in like a scene and a half. And it was such a great introductory scene for her.
Absolutely. No, her character growth has been great. Honestly, they've done a really good job of showing the growth of a lot of the characters. Like some of the people who were criticizing Discovery during season one were saying that we weren't seeing enough of the rest of the bridge crew, which, like, yeah, but it's the first season of the show. We can't just dig into the backstories of every instant on the ship from the get-go. And I think now they are starting to do more of that, especially in season two. They did more of that, and
Oh
season
yes.
three. I'm very curious to see where season three is going, because the first two episodes have been spectacular.
Yeah, we're seeing some interesting character development for those front of the ship characters.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm very excited. It's still very early in Discovery season 3.
Hmm.
So not a whole lot of other questions coming up. I did see Halloween plans. Crystal, are you doing a costume for work this year?
So yes, although I have come to the conclusion after 5 years with my company that the people that work at my company, are not like me. They don't appreciate the intricate, super nerdy reference type costumes. And
Yep.
so rather than going that route and being upset when no one knows who I am wearing a ridiculous inflatable costume to work that I won't even be able to wear most of the day because I have no hands while I'm wearing it. But it's quite fun. And there is I think they do a big costume contest, and one of the categories is best store-bought costume. So, or funniest, I think they have a couple different categories that I may enter in. But yeah,
Sure.
I'm just going to be amusing in a store-bought costume at work. And then as far as Halloween itself is concerned, Saturday night, I'm actually going to be streaming on the Board Game Blitz Twitch channel. And there will be a lot of other people streaming at the same time because we're going to be playing Among Us in costume, uh,
Oh.
and streaming it. And we'll set up a multi-stream so people can see the game from the perspectives of multiple people who are playing it. We've done this before, and it is a lot of fun. And that is happening. I don't remember what time Saturday night. It'll be pretty late for those of you who are on the East Coast. I believe we're not starting until 7 or 8 p.m. Pacific. So
Hmm.
I think it'll be pretty late, but I'm
I
really excited about that.
I need to play Among Us with people I know. My kids and I have roped me into a few games, and just jumping into random games is an odd experience. It's sort of the Wild West, in the sense that there are people. We talk about the magic circle in various games, and I think there are people who are trying to get different things out of Among Us, and they don't always match up.
Yeah.
There are, I'm trying to get an interesting experience, a fun game, some suspense and some development. There are other people who are trying to play as quickly as humanly possible. There are some people who are trying to win at all costs, and that can lead to cheating. I guess there are mods, there are hacks that people are doing to make them always the imposter, or never the imposter, or being able to move in wacky ways, just basically breaking the game. And then there's a bunch of glitches that have us just like getting ejected from games, getting banned from games for no reason. And it's just sort of a good 25% to almost 50% of the games end weirdly
Oh, that's a
because
bummer.
of the matching, and the my kids' devices will the app will crash, and they get booted, or somebody else leaves if they're not the imposter. And I want to play with people I know, so that if there is a glitch, it's like, oh, Eric had a glitch, he'll be back, and not game's over, we'll never see that guy again.
Yeah.
And to actually get to play the game in a more equal magic circle, I guess, is what I'm looking for. People who are
Well,
out for the same reason.
I will say that I've been playing with a group of people in the Brothers Murphs Discord channel, and we have had kiddos of the people that we're playing with, hop in with us.
Yep.
And we are, well, even if you don't necessarily know all of the people who are playing, I believe we are a very friendly and inclusive group. And we are very welcoming to new people. Like, we know that your first game, you won't know what you're doing. And so,
Yes.
because like most social deduction games, once you've played it enough, there are things that you know and things that you don't know, and you can use information to suss out certain things. And sometimes, oh, that person, they're doing this thing that's suspicious. Well, that might just be because they're new to the game and they don't actually know what they're doing yet. Like, we've been pretty good about trying to bring people in, like trying to ease them into some degree, and also just be like, guess what? If you screw it up, who cares? Oh no, you're the imposter and you vented very obviously in front of the group. Okay, we'll vote you out and we'll play again. It's very casual, and we try not to take it too seriously, even if we really enjoy like the seriousness of the moments in the game.
Yes. I mean, none of the games I've played have lasted very long.
Right.
Everything happens seemingly at warp speed, and it's even the discussions, because you can change the settings of how long a discussion goes and how quickly you need to vote, and some people have super fast discussion rounds where you've got maybe 30 seconds to discuss and vote, and like that all happens way too fast. And if you're using an iDevice to play, you have to bring up the keyboard and you have to type in chat, and then you have to lower the keyboard and hit enter. It's not as easy as it is on a keyboard on a laptop to be able to have that discussion. It's almost too stressful to be playing under some of these settings. So again, I would love to be able to play on a chat Discord where when the discussion rounds happen, we talk instead of having to rely on the chat system.
Well, you would be welcome to join us. We don't always play at East Coast friendly times, but we have like occasionally on a weekend played at like 10 o'clock in the morning Pacific. So like the games aren't usually super scheduled in advance. It'll just be somebody popping in the Discord and saying, hey, are you all up for playing tonight? And it happens pretty randomly. And anyone in the chat here as well would be welcome to join the Brothers Murph Discord and come play with us as well if they want to.
That would be a lot of fun. I need to do it. I'm sure some Dice Tower folks, or the Werewolf chat, there's like a Dice Tower Werewolf game that's been going on. I bet some folks on there would want to do it as well.
Oh, for sure. Well, Eric, we have hit about that time, and it doesn't look like we have too many more questions in the chat. Happy Halloween to you, Eric.
Happy Halloween.
Even if it is a pandemic Halloween, it's still Halloween, and it's also daylight savings this weekend. Don't forget to set clocks back, friends.
Yes. That extra hour of sleep. Don't just stay up an extra hour.
Yes.
Actually get the sleep. That's the important thing.
I probably won't do that. But...
No, I say it every year.
Yeah,
but
right?
Yes. Go to sleep. Get that sleep.
Well, if you all in chat could do me one tiny favor before we end tonight's episode, if you haven't already, if you could click the thumbs up button at the bottom of the video, just to let the YouTube algorithms know that you've enjoyed tonight's show. Even if you absolutely hated the fact that I subjected you all to that horrific game earlier, we really appreciate the positive feedback in the form of thumbs up, thumbs ups,
thumbs ups,
thumbs ups.
It's either thumb ups or thumbs up. Definitely thumbs up, I think.
Thumbs up.
Yeah.
But Eric and I will be back again in 2 weeks, which is November 11th.
Ah! That'll be the last Dice Tower Tonight before the move for me. That'll be the last one here in this room, in this space.
One more episode in that room, and then and so, yes, we will see you all on November 11th at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern. Until then, you can find us in all of the usual places. And I am Crystal Dax.
And I'm Eric Summerer.
And you've been watching Dice Tower Tonight.
Thank you for watching. Promotional consideration has been provided by game publishers in the form of review copies of games. Crystal and I will see you in 2 weeks for another installment. Our show is supported by viewers like you. Thank you. Dice Tower Tonight is produced by Crystal and me with assistance from Tom Vassell, Mike DeLisio, Roy Kennedy, and Rob Searing. Our trip to that brewery that refuses to put labels on its beer bottles brought to you by Expedition to Nude Ale. Timothy Pinkham composed our theme, and hosting is provided by Cool Stuff Inc., where you can find great games at great prices at coolstuffinc.com. Give us your feedback on the Dice Tower Guild at Board Game Geek, on Facebook or Twitter, or by emailing us at crystal@dicetower.com or eric@dicetower.com. And don't forget to visit the other shows in the Dice Tower Network. Find something new at dicetowernetwork.com. Until next time, from all of us at the Dice Tower, have fun gaming.
Nude ale.
Yep. Yes, indeed.
Oh,
Happy
my
Halloween,
goodness.
everybody.
Bye, everyone.